do this event with Satsang, with Chatri and Satyamai. And we're sorry we are a little bit late because the green line there was some trouble going on. So people are kind of dropping in, so that's why we're a little bit late. So, let's see, now I need to read on my note here. So for you, how many haven't met Chatri before? Oh, many people. That's nice. Huh? Haven't. Many people. Extra welcome to you. So we would say that tomorrow we have an intensive between 11 and 6 in the evening. So if you want to come, if you feel like after this satsang, you can just come, drop in, and you can pay in the door. 800 Swedish crowns. And then, if you don't want to have mail from us, you need to go to Rasmus or someone in the entrance and tell them that you want to be out of the mail list. Because now if you have signed up, you will get the mails automatically. And next week, like Friday, we have a new satsang and also an intensive on Saturday. But there has been some problems so we will not be here. There was a double booking. So we will be on, let's see, Östermalms föreningsråd. And that is on Valhallavägen. I think I have written 148, but I'm not really sure. That's right, okay. And it's somewhere like in the crossroad between Vartavägen or Valhallavägen. So we will be there for satsang and for the intensive next week. And you can sign up on the net on satri.com if you want to join. Otherwise, you can just come also. And this satsang, you can also find that afterwards. It will be recorded, so you can find it on YouTube. And you will also get a link so you can listen and watch afterwards. Yeah, I think that's it. And also we have a cafe upstairs, so afterwards it will be open for a while. If you want to have a coffee and a cake, baked by me. And then please turn off your mobile phones. And now we will sit in silence and wait for Satri and Satyamai. And very welcome.
beautiful.
Okay, welcome. Welcome. Welcome for many of you once again. Welcome. 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 Such a simple statement. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome, each one of you. Welcome. 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 Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. And welcome to all who are connecting to us remotely. Namaste. Just so you know, this is being recorded and it will be put on YouTube at some point. So we all have an opportunity for some of you who wish to share, but just to caution you that it will go onto YouTube, and if that's a problem for you, then I recommend you don't.
Speak.
Okay, so I'm Satri, and this,
I'm Satyamai.
who doesn't need my introduction, is Satyamai,
Right. And then sitting here in the corner.
is our three key players of the audio-video record keeping. They have traveled with us through Europe for 2.5 months so far, innumerable places.
They're still standing. So we have Anoop, we have Satdas, and we have Scott.
Yes.
Thank you. And we also have a Swedish team. So
And-
everybody has been supporting us here in Sweden with all the programs. Raise your hand. Kaisha, Kala, who else? Do we have everybody? All right. So we can't do this alone at all. So thank you. Okay.
So this is our 4th year in Sweden. There's a potential, there's a possibility here. It's a civilized country, although you are in struggle, just like the rest of the world is. Forces of dark and light are vigorous in the collective consciousness, and Sweden is having its fair share of that. But at the same time, I'm noticing that there's an inherent capacity to move into relationship with the thing we're going to bring forward tonight and tomorrow and next weekend. The quality that we're bringing forward is everything. It's the thing we have been longing for. It's the thing that brings us virtue and joy and truth and goodness and sacrifice and willingness and forgiveness. It's a very essential quality of what we are, no matter who we think we are. This purity, this essential goodness is not an abstraction. It's the ultimate truth, no matter how we think of ourselves, not even how we behave. It really is truth is what is the essence of us. So I'm using the word truth to point to a self-existent quality that everyone in this room has had some contact with in a direct or indirect way. And I'll tell you how I know. Because you're here. No one's interested in sitting with a guy like me unless that is in some way available to them. that what you are, that essential purity, that essential goodness, that essential connection with the possibility of mankind is there in you in some way. It is what lives me. It is what has Satchmai and I and everyone who joins in with us. It is the source of our energy. It is the source of our willingness to continue to engage like beings in the opportunity of what their life's purpose really is. It's so easy to get distracted by the forces that we were born, conditions we were born into, and the forces that are going on all around us, that have since our childhood and are now going on very vigorously around us, that are not aligned with that essential goodness. It's probably inevitable in the endless conflict of human nature that the forces of light are sometimes obscured and they have to rise back up again, and then the forces of darkness are obscured. And this dichotomy is an unfolding event that we find ourselves in. So I have become, not by any effort on my part or any intent or desire on my part, a crack in the universe, an opening that comes through me into the world to those who are able to receive it. I like to consider it, the first way I first became aware of it was early in my awakening when I realized I was a piece of plumbing, that the universe was using me as a channel to come into this world and to bring this essential quality of itself into existence. And perhaps it is for that purpose that my initial awakening went the way it did, and in many ways very different than others. That's brought me to this point where I'm here with you. Satchmai has been the means by which I could physically be here, because I didn't have the drive or the motive. She did. There's a huge organization, a huge number of pieces that have to happen in this world of Prakriti, of creation, in order for us to be here. But it is also true that you worked through this same maze to have come here as well. So the nature of the opportunity in this room is unique. And how you will know is with yourself. You had a purpose for coming here. You have an intent, a reason. If you know it or not, maybe somebody dragged you here. Maybe you came here accidentally. You saw the poster and were intrigued. How many are here for the first time? First time?
No.
All right. So most of the room, actually. So this is your introduction.
I want to know, how many looked him up on the website? So you have some idea. Anybody? So a few of you actually. Okay. We're from the United States. I think we can get that. Just in case.
So I have a book I've written. It's called Bhagavad Gita Revealed, and in there I have a section called My Story. And pretty much in that section I describe what happened to me spontaneously and the stages over 9 years of the process that I went through. and then the subsequent aspects of the work that came. But I want to come back. I don't want to go there right now. What I'd like to do is just bring you in touch with what is right there with you right now. I know I have the attention of many of you, and these first 10 minutes, it's easy to get your attention. But that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for you to be able to access in your own experience or awareness a sense of the purpose that brought you here. Right? You go to these teachers, you go to these seminars, you go to these programs, you read these books. What is that? It's a longing or a seeking or an aspiration for something truer, for something more real, for something that brings us more into connection with both ourselves and the world about us. It can actually be felt in your body right now. If you just pay attention to what you're feeling, what you're experiencing right now, you might be aware of a quality of either curiosity or attention or a longing or a cry, an aspiration. I know it's here in this room. I can feel it, even if you can't. And it would be wonderful if you could. And if anything comes out of tonight, if you could feel that, then we would have fulfilled our purpose for being together. This is very intimate. This is very much what you are, what we all are, what we all share. The spiritual path has two aspects. One, this waking up to this part of us. Either it's woken up already and we're learning how to align ourselves with it, or we're longing to move into relationship to that within us that I'm speaking to. The goodness, the purity. It was there when you were children. It was there at different moments in your life. It's there now in different moments. For some of you, frequent moments. For some of you, much more rare. But these moments are like nurturance. They're like mother's milk. They're like the breath that brings reason and purpose and meaning to our life. We could call it love, because it can be felt as love. Or we could call it what I'm describing as this ineffable quality of truth, of this essential purity of what you are. And it exists simultaneously with all that crap you carry around in your head, all that stuff you've got in your emotional body, all those structures of fear and need and want and justification and rationalization and need to be right and in control. All that's going on simultaneously. As a matter of fact, if you didn't have that purity, this couldn't even exist. If you didn't have a soul, if you didn't have this foundational principle of being, you couldn't have an ego. You couldn't have a personhood. You couldn't have your misery, your limitation, your anger and your resentment, your distrust and your suspicion. If it wasn't for this essential quality of you, the rest of you would have no existence. I mean, the body might be there, but you wouldn't be aware of your existence. And it wouldn't be particularly happy. It would be nothing. So there is a purpose living you. And I'll speak it right here, right now, and I'm going to talk for a bit, and then I'll open it up to you, and we'll try to let it go into your life more deeply. There is a purpose for life. There is actually a purpose that was there at the origin of creation. An intent. You could say a will to be from not being. A will to exist from not existing. And this will is so powerful. However, it took a long, long, long time, billions and billions and billions of years, before this will could start producing anything like creation. It had to lay the foundations. It had to evolve itself. It had to discover what it meant to exist. It had to come out of non-existence and create a framework by which it could come into existence. And for billions and billions and billions of years, it didn't know what it was doing. Matter of fact, it didn't actually wake up to what it was doing until human beings woke up. And then it woke up as us. Unfortunately, we woke up into all the junk that came with the vehicle that our consciousness woke up into, so we didn't recognize the miracle of our self-awareness, of our awakeness, of our awake state. So we took it for granted that we exist and that we know we exist. And if it wasn't for that, we couldn't appreciate, we couldn't experience, we couldn't know our existence. We're living in a miraculous condition of consciousness that we take for granted. And therefore, we have lost access to the purpose of why we are this way. The role that us self-aware human beings uniquely have in the entire creation, not just here on this planet, or the solar system, or the galaxy, the unique role self-aware beings play in the unfolding of the opportunity of this existence. This is one of those moments. I am talking about the will to be, the purpose of existence that has succeeded in bringing us together tonight. This is not an abstraction for me. Everything happened in my spiritual experience was not through any books or any teachings or any even teacher, although I learned to understand it through my teacher and through his teachings. The experience itself was direct and immediate. I could find that will to be within myself each moment. The thing that allowed me to be in existence in this moment. I am fully in touch with the purpose of our gathering today. You may not be, or perhaps you can feel the sense of it within yourself. It is riveting when we meet it. It's something we already know within ourselves but haven't been able to language. It's something we're already experiencing but we haven't been able to access it in a useful, lived way. This purpose is for the universe to wake up as you, as each of you, through each of you. This will to be doesn't know it's a will to be until it becomes us. And we wake up to that purpose in our life. And not the one that our little ego and our parents and our conditioning and our culture and our sex and our beliefs and our ideas have made the purpose. But this essential purpose of our very existence. This is what the spiritual path is actually about. It's about getting in touch with the reality, the truth, the goodness, and the power of what you are as distinct from who you are, with a person with a negative story about others or itself, or what it needs to do to be in existence, and all the other personality qualities that we inherited from our mother and our father, and they inherited from their mother and their father, and so on, so on, so on. And what I called the evolutionary debris as consciousness struggled out of not knowing into knowing. That we carry something of all of us, the debris of our ancestors. We carry in all of us, even though we're human beings, we carry something of the error of all the beasts of existence. All the error of the ignorance of not knowing itself. All the diminished conditions of consciousness we've not been able to recognize that each of our bodies carries an aspect of, a piece of. Our bodies hold the record of this entire evolutionary process, of this primal will to be. We're made of stuff of exploding stars, to start with. We're made of the debris of life and then the death. We're laid in the debris of the destruction of one condition of existence, and in that devastation, creating another condition of existence. All of that is actually within us, and when we begin to wake up with our purpose, when we begin to tap into that essential current and presence of what we are, the nature of our purpose starts unfolding, starts revealing itself. I didn't do this. I'm not speaking anything new. I am speaking to what is already so. That's always been so, no matter how it's been described, no matter what the tradition it has been, no matter what the language is. I'm speaking right now to what it is that's here, that's allowed you to be, and hearing this conversation. If you could discover what you are right here, if you can access that quality of yourself, the history and the story of your lived life, right here, you'll see that your life is like beads on a string, where there's this event when you were very young, and this event when you were a little older, and this event when you were older still, and this is when your mother yelled at you, or your father hit you, or there's something bad happened, and you'll notice that your life is a series of beads. And what links all those beads together? What is the thread of your life? That's the thread of this purpose. This is now, for some of you, another bead in the thread of the unfolding for you of the reason you were born. And when you access, there is this sense of possibility. There is a sense of something that has not yet demonstrated itself, has not yet come into existence, that lifts you, that aspires you, inspires you, that brings forward a longing for something greater, more true. And that's our expression. That's our own unique expression of that purpose. Okay. So now I want to just translate that into something more practical. Okay? You may not know that or follow what I'm saying. I'm speaking English. It's obviously a learned language for most of you. But it doesn't make any difference if you really understand this, but that you get it in some way. Because I want to talk about the opportunity in terms of what I bring and what we bring and the nature of the work that I and many others are fully engaged in. And that is to make real for you a structure by which you can align your lived life so that this principle that I just spoke to can become yours. That you can take it and grow it to be your own farmer, to have your own little hothouse, your own little experimental laboratory where you can investigate the nature of the truth of what you are. Then our job, my job, is to support you and give you tools and experiments by which you can discover for yourself the pre-existing foundational rules, principles, laws that governs the unfolding of awakening consciousness. And it's not what it was. It is something new in this time. In the past, it was called yoga, and yoga is a good term to use. Yoga means actions taken aligned with your purpose for the purpose of manifesting something you do not yet know, but sense. You're taking actions that when you take actions aligned with those purposes, we call that Dharma. That means you're walking, taking actions, you're thinking about, you're organizing your thinking and your attention and your outer life with actions like meditation or yoga or study or contemplation or coming to spiritual teachers as a means for that which you, in one sense, already know but don't know how to know it more fully. How to make it real for yourself. So that is both yoga and that is also Dharma. When we take actions aligned with our Dharma, our yoga, our purpose, we feel alive. We feel engaged. It may be difficult. It may be challenging. But it'll be real. There'll be this sense of purposefulness that will come in the course of every event of your life, where you start meeting things from a different vantage point than you had before when you weren't in touch with your yoga or your Dharma or your purpose. A new way to be, a new way to look, a new way to decide, a new way to discern what's aligned with my purpose and what's not. You feel more alive, you feel more engaged, and the challenges of life, though they may overtake you, you can see them as opportunities and not as once again another condition of diminishment or loss or shame or disempowerment or the opposite, a compensating structure so we don't even have to know that we're living in a state of endless distraction, endless absorption with our compensating structures so that we can be okay about ourselves in a world which we really don't want to be in or know how to be in. And when we aren't aligned with our yoga, when we don't know what our purpose is, our life loses meaning. We start drifting. The enjoyments become shallow. Our happiness is fleeting. Our strength leaves us. We just do our duty. We just show up. We just do the next thing we have to do. See, that's not yoga. That's the condition that most human beings live in. A continuous repetition of unexamined habits and assumptions driven by structures of fear and desire, anxiety and doubt, always looking for some relief from its condition without enough depth to recognize that's what you're doing, except that sense of diminishment, loss of purpose. Right now, there are more people who are spiritually awake who are depressed than awake. There's no more people who are spiritually awake. Notice I'm saying it precisely. Spiritually awake who are living in a despair. Because they haven't been able to find their Dharma. They haven't been able to find a track by which they could organize their everyday life to be aligned with the thing that's missing, rather than the thing that's overtaking or diminishing you. This is not unique to you. This is the paradigm, this is the structure of the design of this creation, where we're always struggling to wake up from a part that is still asleep. And the process of awakening is very uncomfortable. Most of us retreat from the opportunities to awaken because we do not have the sense of the purpose of those opportunities. The purpose of this opportunity would be for you to intend to pray for the ability to see how to come into life in the more full expression of the truth that you are. And also, what is in the way? I like to say it this way, please divine, show me, please show me yourself. And also show me what's in the way of me knowing you, experiencing you. When you can have that second one, please show me what's obscuring me, what's separating me from you, you'll start meeting from a different point of view those things in you that are separating you from that reality, that truth that you are. When we learn to meet life with its challenges, with its diminishments, with its difficulties, with the things we didn't know how to be with, we actually expand our ability to be with ourselves, to be with the world as it is, to be with the relationship that you are having all the trouble with, to be with the job, with the politics, with the money issue, with the whatever it is in your life. You discover an ability to be with those things you didn't know how to be with before. Or at least there is a willingness to inquire or to experience what it is. The only problem with this description is that we use our minds for trying to figuring it out. It ain't going to work. You're going to have develop a different instrument for discerning what is truth and not truth, because this has a different purpose than knowing truth or untruth. It's perfectly fine for keeping the record of what works and doesn't work, but it's no good for anything else. We have another quality of being. The Hindus call it buddhi, or intelligence. We have a quality of intelligence that knows without thinking, that can sense truth, that can intuit real and unreal. And we have to develop that sense. We have to awaken that ability to discern bullshit and from what's not bullshit. We have to catch it in ourselves, and we have to see it when we're starting to look out into the world about what's important and what we want to empower. We have to develop a muscle of discernment. And that muscle is 3 levels. First, it's in this intelligence. Second, it's in the intuition of the heart. And third, it's in the intuition of the body. When you're looking for what is yoga, you want to know what actions are going to align me with the fulfillment of my purpose and what actions aren't aligned with going to fulfill me my purpose. So you need some compass. So your body can be the compass, your heart can be the compass, and your natural knowing. They're all forms of intuition. They're all forms of knowing that isn't thinking. Its expression is recognition. The recognition of truth is a felt experience. And that is, in your body, there's a response that says yes. In your heart, there's a sense of opening that occurs that says yes. And in awareness, there's this sense of expansion and peace and clarity that says yes. It's a yesing instead of a knowing. It's a yes to life, not a no to life. This ability to sense truth, to develop our ability to yes and not no, is one of the pointers that can allow us to align our life with the purpose of our existence. Now, how do you develop this? Well, first of all, you have to have some degree of awakening. There has to be something in you that's not so self-absorbed in its own story, in its own history, in its own projected future, and the things it's good at and things it's bad at, and the things it wants and things it does. You have to have something other than that. You have to have waken up out of who you are into what you are to some extent. There has to be enough. I like to describe this whole process as a seed planted in the soil, where it sends out, without knowing it's doing it, roots below and a shoot above, striving somehow upward. How does a seed know to drop its shell and become a shoot? How does it know that? How does it know to go up? How does it know to go up? It isn't the intellect, oh, I should go that way, that, and this way. Because it's right in the middle of mud and dirt and shit, so it doesn't know jack shit from the circumstances. It has to rely on something inside itself. You could say an intuitive, like in the DNA, capacity to fulfill its destiny, its purpose. We are the same thing. We're a seed planted in the whole soil of our newborn bodies, in the circumstances of our parents and our culture and our sex and the whole context of the world we were born into. And we're coming up out of that, not knowing we're doing it. Certainly that's what happened to me. I didn't know that what came when I was 50 was going to happen. I had no clue. I was simply living a life that brought me bliss, brought me happiness, brought me fulfillment, felt good. I thought I was doing it all for me. I really did. I was a me guy. I did it myself. I was a moderately successful architect. I'm married to Satsang. We've been together 13 years. She's my third wife. I had figured out by her that maybe I had something to do with the problems with the first two.
Yes, he did figure it out. We've been together about 35 years now.
Yeah.
So
Although 20 of those years I was gone on this journey.
that's probably why.
It's good to take a break now and then, right? 20 years is a little long, but we really didn't take a break. We came back. She was linked to the same teacher I was linked with, and she was there playing her role while I could play my role, and then we came back. So it's a shoot, not knowing what it's doing, and time is right. What happens as the shoot comes up to the top of the soil, it starts sensing warmth. The soil is less dense. There is a sense of moving towards something not yet known. But it's not until the shoot penetrates the soil and meets the world of air and wind and heat and cold and wet and sun and dark that it discovers it. And if it was the ego, it would come up to that threshold and say, whoa, I'm back into my mud. No way. I know this shit. I don't know what that is. But if we try to do that, we run counter to the DNA, to the very design of our purpose. And it makes us more and more and more miserable. So the ability to pierce through the veil isn't anything our ego does. It's when the ego loses its grasp in keeping us small, keeping us diminished, keeping us safe, keeping us in territory we're comfortable with, that it can happen. Slips through. And that's just what happened in my awakening. At the age of 50, I'm working late at night, January 4th, 1998. I'm doing my second shift. I have 2 shifts. I was a very busy person as an architect. I had a solar energy business. I was a community activist. I was very much concerned about the climate back then in 1998. Helped pass the net metering law. I was a volunteer lobbyist to do that. It was all, I was driven by this sense of engagement in life. I did not believe or feel that I needed to do anything else. I was not meditating. I was not reading spiritual books. Late that night, an anguish rose up in me, and the anguish became so intense that it was almost unbearable. And it was filled with shame and recognition of my selfishness, of my ego, of even the better ego. I was a good ego. The limitation of that ego became painful to my consciousness in that moment. So painful that I lost consciousness. I woke up from my drafting board, lifted my head, and I was in a complete different domain of existence. My consciousness had pierced the veil. And I did not have any fear. I had wonder, awe, the sense of the unspeakably vast opportunity that existence was. Although I couldn't hold it, I didn't understand it, I didn't know what had happened. But I knew that my body woke up in a way that was just unspeakable. And when I went upstairs that night, late at night, I walked into the door of our room. Satsang sat straight up in bed. She had been asleep. She sat straight up. Tears were pouring down her face. And she was experiencing something of the same awe and wonder that I was experiencing. I didn't know that could be possible. I didn't understand at that time that there was a dimension where that could happen. I was a very rational, logical architect, right? You build things, pieces fit. This was not my domain. I wasn't a poet. I wasn't anyone with this sort of ambition to wake up spiritually. I didn't have that. But I was. Once that happened, there was nothing more that I would want than that. And my life had been organized because I had been living my Dharma, that I developed sufficient discipline, that I developed sufficient capacity to come into life, that when it came and I saw that this was the thing that unwittingly I had been seeking my whole 50 years, there was no question how I was going to live the rest of my life. There was no hesitation. Although I didn't know that it was going to last. I was very wary of peak experiences because I had done LSD and I'd done other psychotropics, and they came and they went. And usually I was lesser for when it went. So I didn't expect anything of it. Yet the next weekend, I had a great week, by the way. Next weekend, Satsang, we were driving to a movie and I was coming back and something new happened. Just like when the shoot penetrates the soil. Every day it lives in the new soil, something new happens to it. It gets more vigorous. The roots go more deeply. The sap in the shoot gets more vigorous. It starts developing leaves. It starts growing into a complete new relationship with the domain it's discovered.
What happened?
An ocean of bliss dumped onto me. It felt like 400 pounds of bliss. Pure Ananda. Just every cell, skin, sense, no thought, no feeling, just the steering wheel.
And he's driving the car.
At night. Steering wheel was like, oh my God, why is this feeling so good? It's like, whoa! It's like the body turned on in a way I never knew the body could be turned on. Nothing I had experienced compared to anything like it. So I was not a safe driver at that moment. Satsang pulled me off the road. She drove me home. I went up and I sat in a chair, and for 6 hours, this kept coming and coming and coming. Now, those of you who have had body awakenings, you know what I'm talking about. Very tangible physical sensations. It's not something you can deny. No more than you could deny the pleasure of sex. You can't deny the pleasure of standing on the edge of the ocean with this vastness and this cold, brisk wind and this alive energy, ionized energy around the ocean. It was direct and real and tangible. There was no denying that this was like, holy shit. And I hope it never goes away. It was an extraordinary recognition that there was something that was there that I had no idea. I didn't have the senses. I didn't have the knowingness. I didn't have the languaging to define it. I can now, but back then I didn't. All there was this extraordinary recognition of a greater reality, a greater opportunity for being alive than I ever could conceive of. No measure. One, and not even night and day. Different, complete new thing. Just like it would be for a shoot that went out.
Poor thing.
And you say, what the fuck is this? And a lot of awakenings are like that. You go retreat. Because it's very difficult to learn how to change fundamentally like that if your mind is still willing the show. It's saying it's safe, it's saying it's not safe. It's saying, yes, I want it, but I'm afraid of it. Human nature is divided. It's at any one moment, there's always the piece of the opposite. I love you, I hate you. This is wonderful, this is awful. This is what I want, this is what I want. Let's just give yourself a few moments, a few days, and you're finding yourself on the opposite end of the spectrum of this endless duality that every human being carries within itself. Our body's organized in that duality. We have two channels, right? We've got two of everything just about. Just about. So I asked about this because I'd go back to work, I was just fine, it went away. I thought it was one of those great experiences. I didn't hang on to it. I didn't try to make it happen again. I didn't have the time. I didn't have the time. I really couldn't do it. But then the next weekend, the universe would show me something else, and the next weekend, and the next weekend. And so I began to get hip that something was coming and growing, not coming and going. And that I needed to organize my life in recognition that this was happening, and I needed to get some help. Because I didn't understand what now I fully understand, and I'm talking about now, is that there was an underlying set of natural principles and rules and structures that occur with awakening, and I didn't have a tradition, I didn't have an exposure, I didn't have a way of...
No teacher.
No teacher at that time. So I was looking for somebody or some body of information that could be some match to what had happened to me.
And these were the days before Google. There was nothing.
And she was doing the searching. We were asking our friends, our Buddhist friends, where we'd go over, do a little meditation and then drink wine and have dinner, right? That's the most I knew about spirituality. And they were the ones that were saying, well, Buddha never talked about this. You know, I haven't heard about Christian mystics because it's always Christ or the Mother Mary or something. There was no reference point. So someone said, well, you should talk to this Indian guy. He comes to the United States every 2 years, and he has an ashram 45 minutes away. And so I went there and I met the person who had developed this funky little house in an old mining town in the edges of Nevada, which is high desert, where there was the gold rush and the silver rush, and they were in Silver City. The gold rush was Virginia City. And her house was built on old mines, big holes where that was her drain pipe for the entire property. That were old mining shafts. And I went and I met her, and she was an ex-casino worker, had retired for 4 or 5 years and had met this teacher in India and had remodeled her house so that he could come to the United States. And just lovely, straight, simple, no pretense at all, you know, wearing sannyasi clothes and some Western clothes. And I asked her, look, this is what happened to me. What do you say about it? And she said, well, the way I see it is when the fruit is ripe, it falls. That means when you're ready, it comes. When the shoot pushes through the soil, it happens. So when she said that, I relaxed. It's like the part of me that wanted to know, quieted. And it wasn't no longer about seeking to understand, but more about understanding what was happening and learning how to move into relationship with it. That's what it became. But then I watched a video of her teacher, and that video, something happened. It was a recognition that impacted every part of my body. My awareness, my heart, and my body was completely caught in the recognition that he was, it was a video where he was talking about the soul, he was a demonstration of that which had awakened in me. He was the mature or more mature demonstration of that which had awakened me. And I knew at that moment that he could guide me. He could show me the way. Every part of me wanted nothing else but to get everything he had now. And that nowness made me miserable because it was frantic. It was desperate. It was like sensing the flame and wanting to burn but not able to burn yet. So it's kind of a madness. So for about some hours, I went into a madness, and Satchmayi and our friend drove us up to the ashram, and I met with this first disciple of the teacher. Her name was Pooja, and she said, I don't know what's going on with you. Calm down, please, you're scary. Let me call my teacher in India, and it's a 12-hour difference, so why don't you come back tomorrow, and I'll tell you what he has to say. And I spent that whole night in this frantic, intoxicated state of recognition of the thing that I'm talking about now. Back then, it was totally new. Now, I live in it all the time. But in the power and the glory and the magnificence of that devotional passion, longing, anguish, that was like a whole part of me that I hadn't experienced, that just burst out in that. I went back home, and I didn't sleep, and they took me back the next late morning, and I listened to him speaking on a recorder. She recorded the conversation. And he says, oh, yes, I know who he is. Yes. Tell him not to worry, drink lemon juice. Everything will be fine.
Now, hot lemon juice.
Yeah, hot lemon juice with
Every
honey.
morning.
Every morning.
He still does it.
I still do. He says, you're intoxication, you don't know anything, just hang out, try to be calm, you'll get over it, and that it'll settle in, and you'll be able to go forward. I mean, that's basically what he said. I mean, I got the sense of it. And something in me just quieted. And what it was this delightful happiness that had found my path. So it's like I didn't need to know my future. I had met my path.
And he saw you.
Yeah, and he
Yes.
knew exactly what I was talking about, as I know exactly what you're talking about when those who come to me from that consciousness. And once you get seen, there's something in you that says, I have found the track. Someone knows what it is that I'm going through, even though I don't know what it is I'm going through. And that's the role of the teacher, is the recognition of what is awakening, to empower your ability to know it for yourself, and then learning to trust that in yourself eventually. But he said, I'm coming in 9 months, and in that 9 months I pretty much closed down my life. Satsang and had a very interesting 9-month period where, though she could sense what I was experiencing, she wasn't having anything of the experiences I was. And what it looked like her husband of 13 years was leaving her. Because I was. And I started dismantling my projects. I had a lot of projects going on. I was giving them off to other architects. I stopped being on the boards of organization. I sold my interest out in my business, and I just consolidated over 9 months. I just closed everything down. And every time I got rid of something in the storage room, every time I stepped away from my work, I had more and more access to this quality. Everything that I'd used to define me before, as I shed it, it was like I was releasing that which held me back from what was coming. The whole structure of attachment, whole structure of clinging to the old, all that began to shed and fall away. And the actions that I took, like meditating, like taking time off at different times in the day to be in touch with the huge energy that was running in my body, and by staying with the energy for as long as it needed and arranging my schedule not around what my clients wanted so much or what I needed to submit to the building department, but around this energy, no matter what the consequences were. I didn't care if it all fell away, but I was surprisingly responsible, and everything worked out just perfectly. When I set the time aside to be with the energy, something changed in the schedule, and the client couldn't show up at that time. You know, it was just like I couldn't do any wrong in that whole period until my teacher came. When he walked off the airplane and he came into the United States, Satsang were there to meet him. I had been through an extraordinary introduction to the fabric of the subtle worlds that govern our existence. I lived in them. I was taught from them, and I met my teacher there frequently, giving me specific instructions. So I was pretty familiar with him when he walked off the airplane. It was nothing new. He was just in a physical body. But this is the first time Satsang saw him. And we're standing there together, and suddenly she's on her knees. And she's in this extraordinary state where, you want to describe what that's like? You never found the words for it.
You can't.
Well, she was just seeing energy and beings and light and life and color.
That's never happened since.
Yeah. I had to drive
He
her
gets
first.
that. I have the awareness, though.
Yeah, right.
But it's right, you had to drive.
I had to drive. Yeah. And we met with him, and he said, "Okay, you're meant to be together. You're meant. This your awakening, and her alignment with your awakening is evidence that you have a purpose together, and that it is clear that your husband's going to be needing to focus some years in this process, and it's important for you to support him in that process in whatever way is needed." And and he says, "And if you make it, you will join him in the manifestation." And of course, for Satsang, with her nature, she was going to make it, no matter what. Give her a challenge. You can bet on it.
Should have taken bets.
But it was not easy for her. It was easy for me, but it was not easy for her. When I left on the airplane for India, where I left for 6 years, where I spent most of the time in southern India, near Mount Arunachala, in the town of Tiruvannamalai, right on the other side of the mountain from Ramana Maharishi's ashram. And I lived there off and on for 6 years. And in that time, my teacher shared all the wisdom of the Vedic tradition. He was a Brahmin, raised with his father was a Brahmin priest, and his grandfather on his side was also a Brahmin priest, and that he was very immersed in the entire tradition of India. And as a matter of fact, his awakening occurred by non-stop chanting of the 18 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. For him, the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna was the principles that when he began to awaken, he organized his life around, and that took him on a journey which I was yet to travel. But he introduced me to the Bhagavad Gita, and it he described it as something of stages of the unfolding. As a plant comes out and it leaves starts developing, as this goes more into the atmosphere, the nature of the inherent DNA becomes revealed, it becomes manifest, and at some point it forms a bud. And then at some point the bud opens and it fulfills its purpose. The spiritual path is just like that. If you can align with that which is awakening consciously, that's yoga. That's true yoga. It's not the yoga where you follow other people's postures or teachings. It's aligning yourself with the yoga that's already occurring within you. Now this is revolutionary because we're in a time where all the old previous teachings that came from individuals that went through similar processes that I went through are no longer needed to define what can happen for you. The opportunity of this new yoga is to learn to understand and to move into direct relationship with the quality of your own awakening. By giving your attention to that which is awakening in you, you take your attention away from your ego. You take attention away from your fears. You take attention away from the habits of you. And you start empowering that quality as awakening in you, and your ego loses its authority when you withdraw your attention from it. It becomes less real as the truth of what you are becomes more real. That's the essence of the spiritual path. We can collaborate with that. We can align ourselves so that we live aligned with our awakening that isn't dependent on following the rules of a tradition. Although traditions can help prepare us, they're all based on seeking. When you awaken, it's based on finding. Seeking gets in the way. So when there is water everywhere, there's no utility for the well. So when you're already awakened, the dogma, the traditions, the teachings can get in the way of what is already coming naturally and spontaneously. Okay. I think that's as far I'm going to go for this. I want to give you an opportunity. Come forward and ask questions. Now, I'm a very practical guy. After I went through a journey for 9 years, I completed, and I came back. And what you're seeing before you all, is I have returned. I have become more fully a human being than I ever was before my awakening. So I'm really here in the full recognition of whatever it is you may be struggling with in the unfolding of your awakening. And part of that might be just to know if you have awakened. And what can you do to move into alignment so that the awakening can continue to expand? That's the opportunity. To meet with someone like me, you can't know what that's going to be. Because no matter what you think, if you bring it up here, if you happen to have a thought when you come up here, it's not going to be that, probably. I don't answer questions in the way you would expect your questions to be answered. So really what the opportunity is for you to come out of being a listener in the audience to being a direct participant for everyone who's here. See, I mean, what's reality? Reality is being nervous. Reality is being excited. Reality is being in touch with the fear of doing something you don't want to yet do. To come out of the field of how you usually are when you're in a group this big.
And you do not have to have a question.
You don't
can
know.
just come up.
You can just go.
Ah, Miguel.
Miguel. All right.
Yes, come.
He's had practice.
Yay!
Good to see you. All right. Don't sit on your microphone.
Thank you both to be back in Stockholm.
Yeah.
Thank you
good
for
to be
being
It's
here.
so wonderful to be with all the sisters and brothers and with you. Wow. It just puts me on fire. It's like,
Yeah, that fire. That fire, Miguel's feeling. That's the purpose. Getting excited with the opportunity. It is like a fire. And it burns everything in us that's still asleep. Forces us to wake up. Doesn't let us just go by with the same old ways we've done in the past. It's also extremely healing because it wakes up us out of our resistance and our diminishments, our fears and our stories and traumas. It brings us into existence. Okay.
it's like an explosion of the heart. It's like, and I love that.
Yeah. What's not to love, right? All your hearts explode. Yeah, hang on to that one. That's good.
It's like life has so many duties all the time.
Yeah.
It's
We lose access to that which we already are. But the role of duty has a role to play in the unfolding of the universe in our lives. So, yes, and your life is in the midst of interesting change, isn't it?
yeah, it's like I feel like a deep purpose of being part of the Sangha and the friends. We are like awakening together, and it's my own awakening. And it's like a lot of times I feel like I don't have time for it.
Yeah. It's actually a good idea for you to be able to make time, so that it can take a stand in a different level of what's come to you than it's been able to, because you've been doing it simultaneously. You're serving the same time your system is developing. So there is something to be said for holding the awakening. To take, when the purpose starts running as a current, Kundalini Shakti is one of the expressions, but it is also a force of truth consciousness is another expression. We might end up talking about some of these in front of the room. Then it's pushing us to a different place of consciousness than we're habituated to. But if we don't let ourselves get stabilized, then the tendency is we take what we have and we give it away and return to a lesser consciousness. So this idea of pulling back your desire to serve humanity, which is the highest expression of the human being, and to make it, hold it, for it to manifest itself more fully in you, will then make you more useful to humanity. So that is part of why you have a teacher, is so that you can be advised when to engage back into your life and when to take a break from it and come out of it and build that which has come, and then to go back into it from each level, because it's always the case that when the awakening comes and we participate with it, we grow that in us that is still obscured and still undeveloped is met, and it's brought up to our awakening. That becomes the platform for the next possibility of the unfolding of that awakening. So I leave it to you to sense this, but I assure you that the nature of the awakening when it comes is you're so full of the fullness of the purpose and the bliss and the awareness that all you want to do is give it away. And it's one of the risks of the spiritual path is we start giving it away before it's fully come. So the idea of knowing to hold it, in the traditions, and especially in India, the holding it was given more emphasis because it's what propels you further and further into the higher states of consciousness. You could be the first awakenings, the tendency of the awakened energy is give it away into relationship, give it away into new projects, give it away into the outer life, and therefore you diminish the ability of the awakening to push you into the next level of spiritual maturity where you could serve the world actually more effectively. Ultimately, we awaken to serve those who are in the awakened process, not to make others happy. Happiness is the booby prize. Purpose is the real prize. To be able to be aligned with the purpose and the meaning and the value of living purposefully is more fulfilling than happiness or pleasure. Even if it means that you're loved and people love you, even if it means that it brings temporarily a sattvic field into your field, it will not last because it's still in the dimension where things constantly rise and fall, rise and fall. We have to awaken to come beyond, to come in contact with that which is beyond that which can come and go. We have awakened to the place where it comes and grows. This is perhaps one of the most critical, important things to realize, because in our human life, when we feel good, we want to play with everybody. We don't want to feel good, we don't want to play with anybody. That's human. That always comes and goes. We want to find something other than that in the awakening that stands in its own truth. And then all this coming and going is like waves dashing against the shore, and you are unchanged. And that's how it would be with these circumstances in your life. It's showing you what it is that hasn't allowed you to stand in your full authority because of the dependencies and the needs and the compensating structures that have shaped you as a human being. It's not unique to you, of course. It's the same for all of us. The idea of not giving it away too soon is very difficult for the human ego. We so want to be loved. We so want to be seen. We are full of need. We're full of want. The parents weren't there when we needed them. We're looking for that parent when we marry. We're looking for that thing that feels missing to the need, to the want of our less developed consciousness. But when we awaken, we discover a self-existent love. We discover a self-existent worthiness, value, trust within ourselves, faith, you might say, that's not dependent on what people give us or not give us. The spiritual path has that part too. So for you, a time away to be with God in truth and to go through the process. If you don't do it, life will do it to you. It'll take your life away from you.
Life is doing it right now.
That's right, I know. So, it's pointing the way. When we learn to read the indicators, then we become efficient in aligning our attention and our activities with the indicators. But it's good to get right information. What's happening in the room is right information. We're talking about the nature of aligning yourself with what's already happening, not something yet to happen. We're talking about what's here right now and the opportunity of you learning to maneuver your life right here, right now. A sailboat, when you're sailing a sailboat, you don't make plans for how to align with the sail an hour down the road. You make alignment, meeting what the wind is asking of you in the moment it's happening. Now it's useful to have the flexibility and the skill to adapt to the wind as it blows inevitably in the course of our lives, but to be right here, right now with it is the way we actually take our most efficient You know, there's that sweet point. I don't know if you ever sailed. Have you ever sailed a sailboat?
I've been, but I never understood the wind really.
When you're aligned with the wind, everything sings. The boat sings, the tension's right, the angle, everything is just moving in this kind of serendipity, this synchronicity. So this learning to align with these natural forces that are there in our awakening is very similar to learning to align with any skiing downhill or sailing a sailboat or any activity where it requires us to respond to the rhythms of existence. There is a way to fall when you're skiing that's fun. You're continuously falling when you're skiing. Learning to fall, it brings this effortlessness, like feng shui or aikido. You just move into the rhythm of what's already happening. These principles are universal. They're everywhere in every teaching, in every aspect of yoga or martial arts or wisdom. It isn't a mental structure of rules how to be. It is of a different order. Okay, so something else. Anything else?
I think that's it right now.
Good.
That was like...
It's all purposeful.
Yes.
It's showing up this way
Yeah.
to allow you to come to the next stage.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, thank you.
Welcome. What's your name?
Anjani,
Anjani?
Mhm.
All right. Welcome.
thank you for your speech. I was wondering when you talked about the plant moving through the soil to start growing, I don't quite understand, how do you shed the ego, or how do you shed what you need to shed to get out of the way to let the plant grow?
Well, in the course of human life, while you're still in the soil, it's finding out what works and doesn't work, right? If you get a job and you don't show up, you lose the job. If you get a job and you learn how to get along with your boss, even when you don't like them, then you keep the job. You know, if you're good, if you develop sufficiency in certain skills, if you apply effort and discipline to become good at something, you're more likely to get a more successful response from the work environment. And it's true in relationship. The more you're able to be in touch with how to maneuver in a relationship so that you're both empowered, rather than both needs getting met or not met, then you can also discover what works and what doesn't work in a relationship. Everything in existence is inviting us to discover a way to be in existence. A child learning how to be in existence looks to the parents, looks to the people around it. It gathers information. As we go into adolescence, we look to our peers. We look to people to give us a sense of individual identity free from our parents. When we're young adults, we come into the world and we try to discover how to be successful in life. Now, we do it from within the structure of human ego, so obviously many things aren't going to work, because you may be taught how to be or told how you should be, but in the practicality of life, it may not be appropriate, it may not be effective. In old traditions, the way to make their marriage last for the woman is to continuously submit to the husband. But in this age, that's not going to bring you into any, it won't allow you to be able to discover the fullness of who you are. So every age asks something of us, and in every circumstance in life, there are things that work and don't work. How do you do it in spiritual awakening? Is to first get right information. So I have the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, which are free on my website, the 18 chapters. I describe the stages of spiritual awakening and what to do to move into alignment with that awakening process, and what can empower you to move in alignment, and what can get in the way, and what are the challenges, and how to meet those challenges. It's a large subject. When I was an architect, I was a young man. When I was an architect, I recognized that I needed, after I came out of school, that I needed to learn how to actually practice architecture. And so what I looked for were people who were practicing architecture so that I could learn how to do it myself. And I was pretty good at it, and after a while I was able to work with some really good architects, and in the process of becoming an apprentice to them, I discovered how to be a really good architect. And it wasn't that I mimicked them, but rather the quality of what they were demonstrated something that was yet to be developed in me. It's the same thing for us. You apprentice yourself with people you admire or you respect or you feel carry something more than you, and you gather from them information, support, understanding that would allow for you to find your own way in how to do that. It's not enough in spirituality to surrender to a teacher. You will always become dependent, like a child, always dependent on the teacher. It's not I'm not here to develop devotees. I'm here to develop fully awakened human beings. So my purpose is to empower you to discover how to move in alignment with your own awakening. That's what I'm talking about in the room. I know there's a transmission. I know that when people are open to me, there's a tangible force that comes to them and accelerates the process. But if you can't yourself learn how to be, if you're just going to be dependent on the transmission, then when I leave or when I pass, you're going to fall back into a condition of consciousness that has not been able to grow into her or his own authority on their own spiritual awakening. So yes, I'm a farmer. I'm tending to new souls. I'm watering them and I'm helping pluck the weeds, but I'm also teaching them how to pluck their own weeds and do their own watering. So that's the nature of the work. I would say that's what to do. Always look to those you admire, respect, trust, as the means to do so. Don't worry about it. Everybody gets to have that moment of humiliation. One time or another. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, what's your name?
Tully.
Telly.
Tully.
Telly, where are you from?
Australia.
Where?
Australia?
Australia. Okay, good. I'm happy to see young people because young people are coming in awake, much more awake than us older characters. I have the old model. You're the new models. So there's sort of a super alertness to truth and untruth. The younger they are, the more they're in touch with something that us older ones are obscured to. So, very happy to have you come up.
I wasn't sure what I was going to ask, but when you just mentioned about that youth that has some purity or clarity to it, it relates to something I've been thinking of, which is a huge frustration and anger towards myself that I lost my Dharma. And I lost it before I realized I had it.
Nicely said. How's that make you feel?
Lost.
It's very important to feel that feeling of lostness, because that's all you need to do with it. Feel it. Lost. Not to be concerned, because the lost is actually, the feeling of being lost is a prayer. It's a longing to be found, to find yourself. See, the lostness is the doorway to the finding. It also shows the maturity of your soul, which knows that What you've become is not truth. What you're adapting to is not truth. So it's a good sign.
It's it feels bittersweet that something was there without me having to go looking for it. Right. And now, as I look for it, it's less. It's that question you said earlier. What is blocking me from my way?
Me, yes.
Or what? How did you put it?
Separating me.
Separating me.
Yeah. From that which is the truth that I know but I can't access. That prayer is your way out, is your way to, and moving into, because you're praying for it to come, in that please show me what it is that I am, that I have forgotten, or I have lost.
Or what's in the way.
Or what's in the way to that.
Can I ask one more question?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
What do you usually say to people who have found their spirit but are very despairing?
What was the last part?
But are very despairing.
Despair is the evidence of finding spirit.
Thank you.
It's about the fear that I have been dealing
And its
in
price.
Sorry.
And its price in your life. Cost of fear.
It's this knot in my tummy that's putting me, actually pushing me to be here and to meditate. It's like...
It's not fear, it's desperation.
Desperation. Yeah, it is actually.
You're afraid that if you don't, you'll lose the opportunity of this life.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, so that's also spirit.
Yeah.
Becoming more tangible in our experience, where we despair at our separation from being in a more full relationship with it. That's evidence of our awakening. The Bhagavad Gita starts with that. It starts with despair, with dejection, the anguish of our separation from our original nature. That's evidence that we have woken up to our bondage. Okay, so now that you've awakened, the art of awakening is learning to understand. The mind can be the intelligence can collaborate with the awakening process. That despair in your belly, the fear, is also a longing in your heart. Now I want you to just feel your heart right now. Okay, are you in touch with your heart right now? Yes, you're feeling the longing?
Yes.
Okay. They're both needed. It is agony and ecstasy. The path of coming into relationship with existence at the next level is fear and need in the human design. And in the spiritual design, it is the resistance or the structures of the old pattern and the cry of the soul to go to God or truth. So it's a good sign to know that's there and to feel that in your body, to know how to hold it. There's a couple of things about experience which we have forgotten. The problem for most human beings is they do not live in their bodies. They live in their head. They live in their emotions. They live in their story. The body is your means of being able to move into a relationship with that which you don't know how to be in relationship from up here. So if you can feel, as you described perfectly, that, then in that is I like to call the peril of not awakening. And with it is the purpose, the longing, the fierce fire, impatience that goes with that to awaken. And if you do, at the same time, to balance it is to be into your heart. Because the heart is the source of patience. The heart is the source of connection. It is the source of our ability not to have to seek something. It gives us the ability to discover, to find what is already there. And how do you come to the heart? You have to give it equal attention, if not more, than to what the belly is telling you. Because the belly has a direct access to the mind, because the mind's based on fear and survival. So if you're only listening to this, then the mind is activated, like, woe is me, oh, I can't do this, it'll never happen to me, all those negative stories, right? You know, it's the wrong teacher, yeah, you know them well. So you can't use this at all for that. You have to trust what your body tells you. But put the attention to the heart. Now I know there's something there right here in your diaphragm, as we said. So I want you to see if you can become aware of that, what's there in your diaphragm. You might want to put your hand on the diaphragm. Yeah, just either use your fingers, that way it pokes. What is the diaphragm? The diaphragm is the ego's boundary between our own self-will and divine's will. And it is where we live in separation, and where all our diminishment and our fears of being accepted or loved, our lack of affinity with ourselves and the world, all the impressions are stored here. So it's curious because right now, when it starts freeing, it feels like an energy event. Can you feel that?
Very strong energy.
Strong energy, okay. This is your power locked up in diminishment. This is the power that's associated with the truth of what you are that stayed in a reduced condition because either it wasn't safe or the world wasn't going to accept it or you didn't know how to be with it. So when this starts awakening, it also starts awakening the adhara, the area just above the second chakra. And then that sense of your own purpose in existence starts coming. So these are some of the instructions that I can invite you to begin to explore. When I work with people individually, I actually have people who I'm training to work with other people, to guide them through the process of trusting their body and moving into relationship with their body with what's already happening in the body with your awakening. Because that's the nature of the awakening. It is something that's trying to establish itself into a structure that's been organized in a different way. It's called transformation. It's that literally reorganization of your nervous system, of your biochemistry, of your lymphatic system, with the organs of your body, in order for this awakened purpose to be able to be felt and lived in a way that's real as the life you lived before. So this process is one where we learn to collaborate. We learn to get information. We learn some methods by which we can do so. So how long ago did you have your awakening? Microphone.
The last year, maybe.
Last year?
I had a year of quite a lot of bliss. That I was just in contact with
everything,
the nature and everything.
Well, that was all in your heart.
And
right?
then I was just thrown down in the.
Got it.
Completely in the.
Diminished, collapse.
Couldn't sleep. Felt really awful. Yeah. And that's been now the last year. It's getting better a little now, but.
All right. So this is the process. So enjoy the high, but don't be afraid of the low. What the low is doing is taking what you've awakened into the unmet parts of yourself. It brings the consciousness that's at this level into the parts of your system where the consciousness is lesser, awakening it. So the awakening of the embodied resistance to being awakened is transformation, and it's always difficult. Because what you're doing is you're entering into the less consciousness at the level that it occurred at. And what it's doing is it's revealing itself and all its qualities and all its energetic nature and all the stories that are associated with it. And then once the work is done sufficiently, you'll rise back up and you'll rise higher than you were able to before, so that you can dive the next time more deeply into the next layer of the darkness.
I wasn't expecting that.
That is
hard.
That is the rest of your life. It's not about happiness. It's not about being comfortable. It's not about sleeping well at night. It's not about eating the food you would like to eat without digestion disorder. It is not about not being on fire all the time, because these are events of transformation. It is about the purpose of the awakening, because it keeps revealing itself every time you come out of the next level of darkness, what it is that you are in truth. It's a long process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the first 3 years are the most difficult, okay? And then there's a maturing process that occurs that goes into about the 5th year. And then you have a choice to continue or not. You're coming from a different. So this is the nature of the teachings that I have that are in the Bhagavad Gita. I would invite you to familiarize yourself with that. We have a whole community of people that are doing study groups all over the world, and there's means you can share your story as you're doing now in front of the room with other people who are in the same process as you, varying places about it, but at least informed and educated about how to move into collaboration with it. And that way you can support what's happening. There's 2 sides of this. One side is to strengthen our consciousness. And the other side is to meet that which is resisting that. So you strengthen the consciousness. That gives you, when the consciousness strengthens, it's like light going on in the kitchen. The brighter the light in the kitchen, the more cockroaches you see. So you go in and you smash all the cockroaches, and then the light gets brighter, and you see the ants, and you see the termites in the walls, and then you see the corruption in the floor framing, and then you see the fractures in the foundation. But in the end, you have a house that can stand.
You have a new house.
You have a new house. Yes. A new vehicle, a new channel, a new method by which you can come into existence that is no longer being determined by the old method. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You're doing everything perfectly.
Thank you.
You have one more person in the back.
Yes, who in the back?
Are you coming?
Yes, okay, come on. Nick, welcome.
Thank you.
No, you gotta accept it. You know, they want to applaud, you have to bow. Yeah. Okay. What's your name?
My name is Peter.
Bill?
Peter.
Peter. Oh, yeah. Good. How did I get Bill out of that? All right, Peter, go ahead.
This is really scary. My
It's
question.
really exciting.
Yes.
It's not fair, it's excitement. Excitement happens when you go outside of the boundary of what you know already. It's a good sign. You want to live in an excited state always. May you always live on the edge of your boundary.
So my question is, like, how can you give me any advice on how to find the purpose? What's like, how do I know? Because I'm interested in a lot of things, like the things I work with, I enjoy, it's fun, and I'm also on a spiritual path, and that's very
Have you
rewarding as well.
had a spiritual experience? Have you had some kind of awakening experience that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
But you have curiosity,
Yes.
interest.
Yes.
You want to discover. You're in
Yes.
discovery.
Yeah.
Okay. You're seeking at this stage is discovering, finding out. what you're trying to find what's so, rather than just seek what's so, because you're happy with what you're finding, right? In your human life, in your spirit, you're like, oh, cool, this is good.
Yeah.
All right. It's perfect, and it's what I recommend for young people. I recommend that young people live their life in a process of discovering what it means to be a human being in life. Learn some skills, get capable of something, follow what it is you're interested in, fall in love, fall out of love, meet somebody you think is the one, and then find out that you aren't that for them. There's all these different things. You go through the course of the cauldron of becoming a human being. And you can do this, if you can do it positively, if you can do it as like an interest and not be defeated by these things, you actually create a greater capacity to hold awakening when it comes. See, I was 50 before I had enough capacity, and I did everything I wanted to do. I cross-country skied, I downhill skied, I snow camped for 20 years, I was involved in all kinds of projects. I loved my life. And so thereby I had created a vessel through the process of the discipline and the alignment with what worked versus what didn't work. As an architect, you have to make sure it works. So I had to learn how to make things work. And it wasn't easy. Every time I took an architectural project, it was like a funnel, where I would get excited at the beginning and miserable at the end. But then I would pop out of that funnel and it would manifest, and I'd be excited again about the next opportunity. My life was a series of funnels. Challenges that I created for myself to go beyond myself, to grow into a more full experience of what it is to be a human being in life. So until the awakening happens, that's what I recommend. And even after a young person's awakening happens, I tell them, go get a job, finish the school, do the thing that would bring you into life so you can be an independent person in life, to get a sense of your own personal authority and not use the spiritual path to bypass the lessons of living a human life. But because you're not coming from fear, you're coming from desire, you're coming from interest, you're coming from a positive place, then just keep living your life. Know that you met someone like you who went through this experience. And just knowing that thing can happen will be enough to prepare you for when it does, for you to be able to recognize when it does.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Peter.
thank you. You got somebody over
All
here?
right, over here.
I've got one and then two.
Now, we have an intensive tomorrow, so those of you who didn't get a chance to be called on, you can do the intensive tomorrow.
Yannicka, how late can we stay?
Yes, welcome. All right, let's let them plow.
What? No time limit?
Until midnight.
We won't do that.
We won't do that.
But we can go for a little bit.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
And if people have to catch trains or whatever, it's okay to leave.
Yeah,
So don't worry about it.
you got it. If you haven't gotten it by now, you'll never get it. So, not never, you're just not meant to get it right now.
Okay.
What's your name?
Sebastian.
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 Sebastian, yes, okay, welcome.
Thank you. So I have a lot of questions and no answers. And
Good,
yeah,
good.
and a lot of
Being
pain.
smart.
Where's the pain?
It's physical.
Tell me, where is the
So
physical?
it's in my shoulders and my spine and my upper back
How long has this been going on?
for a very long time. Let's say maybe 4 years or more.
Okay,
And this is continuation of some other, it's like just different pain symptoms changing and shifting in my body over a process of many years. And originally I think it's terror and fear, but now it's manifested as physical pain and sometimes a deep sense of despair, like hopelessness maybe.
very good. It's clear evidence of awakening. This is clear evidence that your system has awakened. Now you notice what's going on right now. Just notice what's going on in your body right now. Feel that. Okay? Because it's moving right now as we talk. So what happens when the consciousness is introduced to awakening? There's a reptilian brain that withdraws in fear. It just plunges down for some systems. Some systems are ready to open. Others, it's terror. The ego gets plugged into a structure of survival because the nature of awakening is very similar with meeting your own death. So the nature of awakening to where the reptilian brain is part of the consciousness, that when it comes, this reptilian reaction prevents it from coming in. So that's what's happening with you, Stephen. It is a...
Sebastian.
What?
Sebastian.
Sebastian, sorry. It is the reptilian part of your nervous system that is not able to allow the awakening to come into your body even though it wants to. And what that's creating is a despair and a hopelessness in your heart, which I can feel. I can feel the anguish. So the nature of that anguish of being separate, being not in control of being able to allow the awakening, because the consciousness knows what it's offering, but the body doesn't. So what's your ancestry?
Half Chinese, half Swedish.
Chinese and British, okay. So
Swedish.
Swedish.
Oh, sorry. Chinese, Swedish. I have poor hearing, so that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. So it could possibly be the Chinese fire. Was that your father or your mother?
My mother.
Yeah, so
There's
fear.
a lot of stuff there.
Yes.
There's so much fear.
Yes.
My mother is afraid of everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the Chinese embodiment is very material, and it clings to its materiality. So it doesn't want a spiritual awakening. But the Swedish in you wants to awaken. So, I'm sorry. But you're a battling of two cultural paradigms, and it is what's trying to be resolved in you.
like the process all day for me is like my body like contracting, and then like I click it into place, and then it's like contracting, and it's like, and I'm just like, jeez, you know, when does it like, what do I do? Like if I just surrender to it, it just
There's things
hurts.
you can do.
It's,
You can get energy work done in your body. A couple of things that can help you. There's a number of Rolfing and other technologies. Have you used any of those?
I've tried many things over 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Rolfing?
I have not tried Rolf.
Rolfing might help. For me, Rolfing made a big difference. The nature of Rolfing is pain.
Good.
It finds the pain and then increases the pain and keeps painting until there's no pain. And when it gets to no pain, whatever it is, changed. My whole body changed. It's
Ice baths is like the only time I really get relief from the
What,
pain.
ice bath?
Yeah,
Yeah.
ice baths, because the other
Yes.
pain is so intense that this pain is...
You've got a lot of fire in your system. And there's a lot that wants to awaken. The heart's awakened, the vital is ready. Wow, it's ready to go except for the structure. So you got to deal with it at the body level. Okay, so ice bath works, but the nature of pain in the body, the solution to pain in the body is to meet the pain fully. And it's points. What's going on is it's nervous point clusters that are of tangle. And what happens, like in a deep massage, they find the cluster and they keep working it. So you need someone to do that for you. Yeah. That's it. Sorry, I couldn't help you more. You know,
It's okay,
There's Advil and Tylenol. I mean, that's, you know, whatever else. Endure calmly. I have that as one of our. We have people who made T-shirts that said "Endure calmly," because it is the nature of your particular spiritual awakening is actually in your body, because your awareness is actually quite ready.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I'm sort of in a relationship, and this is with a woman that has experienced awakening and who's experiencing it actively.
Uh-huh.
And that's been very helpful for me. It's been very inspiring, but also very painful. Partly because my mind compares my experience to hers, but completely different.
Can't do that.
and
Yeah, such
and, and I'm unsure what to do because I don't want to be in a codependent relationship. I don't want, I feel like I'm often drowning in my own pain, and when I need someone else.
And is she trying to take care of you?
No.
Good.
Yeah, I know, but I wasn't very happy about that.
No sympathy.
Is she here?
All right. Is she here in the room?
I don't think so. No, she's not.
Okay. It sounds perfect to me. I really don't think, I think you're in the perfect situation. I believe that the nature of what's happening to you is important equally, because for some people, it's a part of the path is easy, but it will become hard, and there's other people where it's hard, and then it'll become easy. Yeah, so there's two ways of going. It's nectar at the beginning and poison at the end, or poison at the beginning and nectar at the end. I guarantee you're going through the poison. And the nature of the poison is really learning how to be with it, which means also using technologies that are available to help the body, because it's very physical. And it's not a limitation in you, and you don't have to be like her, because every one of us are unique. Every one of us are unique in the unfolding of spirit in us, in the body, in the heart, in the mind. Comparing yourself to someone else simply is what the mind does, because it doesn't know how to recognize what is happening already with itself. You have the precious treasure. It is unique to you. Other people would be jealous of what you have or wish for it for themselves, but you're not paying attention to that. You're paying attention to you comparing yourself to others who seem to have something you don't have. This is human foibles. This is an error of human comparison. So judgment has no role to play.
It's not greener
on the other pasture. You go through this now. It'll strengthen you for what's going to come next. All right. Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
can give you better.
Thank you. No.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, there. I already saw tree.
Okay. Where?
Green.
Green. Well, that's, kind of green.
A lot of people wearing green.
First of all, my name is Oscar.
Hi, Oscar.
Yeah. Hello. First of all, I'd like to you said that you could just come up here and but I also have a question. But I'm a little bit stupid, so maybe someone already asked that. You said before about awakening, and that after 5 years that you could you decide if you want to keep going or stay. What do if I have an awakening and that the time has gone past that and I want to go back?
Well, it's I have to say a couple of qualifiers for that. One, this is for people who are connected to me, that I am directly working with, directly or indirectly, from afar or near. And two, that whatever has come that's true, you can't lose. You can't lose it. It's already there, but perhaps you've gotten distracted, or you've made other things important, and you've lost access to that initial recognition that you had. So it's where you are. How old are you now?
33.
33? You got kids, family, any of those things?
No kids, but luckily I have a girlfriend.
Girlfriend, okay. That's okay. All right, she's out here somewhere, right? Yeah. Okay, there she is, nodding. All right, so be where you are, okay? You can't, the nature of what awakened, can you describe to me something of that awakening sense that you had?
Well, it's kind of funny because like everything, or like most things that you said during this evening, like I've had, like you said about this. What did you say?
The diaphragm,
Yeah.
the energy in the diaphragm.
So I know this is going on YouTube, but I've had some experience in India with stuff.
How long ago?
8 years ago.
8 years?
Yeah.
Were you with a teacher?
No,
By
I
yourself?
was by myself. Yeah,
Where were you?
in Goa,
Go on.
Goa.
Goa.
in Chapora, if you know where
Okay.
it is. Yeah.
All right. So something in you responded to the energy field then?
Yes, for a longer time. First, it was just short, like
Glimpses?
Yeah,
Glimpses.
and then I felt like felt the same when I woke up the next day.
Okay.
And
How long did that last?
very long, maybe 2 years.
Okay.
But the problem was that when I was talking to my friends, this was the only thing that I could talk about.
Mhm.
So I noticed that they got like
Tired of you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I felt like nothing else mattered
Yes.
to
Well,
talk
it's
about.
true. From the awakened state, nothing matters but to continue awakened, but you weren't with the right friends.
Yeah, that was the problem. That I didn't know
Yeah, you
other
don't know.
people, and most people just thought of me as crazy or
Yeah,
you
weird.
know, yeah. So,
So
yeah,
you,
my
did you put it down or did it go away?
I wanted to write a book about my experience, just not like it's a teaching or anything, just like this is how I experienced it and this is what I was thinking about, because I want to help others who had the same problems I had before.
You could share,
Yeah,
yes, to help them in their journey.
But I also wanted to make sure that my path was a correct path.
Good.
And since I didn't really have so much things going for me
Mhm.
at that time, I had to wait. So
Did you have a pull to find a teacher? Was there a longing to find a teacher at that time?
no,
Okay.
I had like a teacher in India,
Mhm.
but I kept saying that he was my teacher, but he always said, no, don't call me a teacher. I'm not your teacher.
Okay. All right.
But
It doesn't matter. In my perspective, it's not the teacher that determines the student. It's the student that determines the teacher. The teacher can pretend that he hasn't accepted the student, but the student is the one who chooses the teacher. So that's the nature of our relationship too. It would be you who chooses this is something you could use. That's the truth of it. Because you drew something from him. And even though he didn't want to take on your karma, he didn't want to get in trouble with where you were going, he wanted you to find your own way. He distanced himself from you. And then you lost access to that state that had come to you because it came in part because of that relationship. So this is actually how it happens. When I was 19, I was introduced to Meher Baba. And at that age, I was very pulled to Meher Baba, and as long as he was living, I felt like I had a purpose. But when he died, it faded away. I went into what I was without that relationship. And I was in anguish for a period of time until the people who took over his teachings told me, look, it wasn't your time. You still have to live. You should go back into the world. And I followed that instruction for 25 years. And then look what happened. So sometimes these periods where we get it and then we lose it for a long period of time serve our ability to come to a more mature relationship with what has come, where we're not being like children, dependent on the teacher, but being more a collaborator with the teacher, with the unfolding of the same thing they have with us. And that's the right relationship. The reason I ask is because I wanted to know if it was self-will that separated you from being accessing or not. So it wasn't self-will. It was a true thing. So you have true seeking. True seeking you can trust. You know what you had. You want to grow in that. Then it will come. When you find someone who is that, they can validate that channel, and that all you need to do is take up a daily practice of meditating 45 minutes twice a day. Anybody who wants to stay in connection to what comes into this room, that you want to bring it into your life, train yourself to every single day sit silent and still for 45 minutes, and it will come. You don't have to do anything else. So for you, actually it's already yours in a certain extent, because whatever comes never goes away. And this would allow for it to come back, to be restored back into life for you.
Okay, thank you.
You what?
Thank you, Oscar.
All right, we'll take one more. Yes, there. Welcome.
So, what I think...
What's your name?
Axel.
Ashley?
Axel.
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 Okay.
Yeah, so I think what happened was that I used to raise my hand.
Have you had awakening? Do you feel you had any kind of awakening?
Depends what you mean. So, no.
You would know what I was saying.
Yeah.
So, what brought you here tonight?
I can't exactly tell either.
Hmm?
I can't exactly tell either.
You just felt pulled to come?
I felt pulled to come, and then when you guys looked my way, I just raised my hand.
Got it. Got it. All right, so something raised your hand. Yeah, that's right. So there's the person, and there's that part of you that raised its hand. The part of you that raised that hand is what got you into this place. It wanted to be exposed to something that would allow it to come into more into your life. So that part of you said yes, no matter what this part of you is doing. So this is a defensive structure, a protection structure, because you're quite sensitive and you're quite vulnerable. But this is the one that wants, senses the truth and the love and the power that is demonstrating itself. And that's the cry of the soul within the person. There is something in the person of you, I call it what you are, that is hearing this. And it's being nurtured. It's like being watered, like I'm a farmer and you're a seed. And the water, I am watering the seed. And it's being watered. It's thirsty. And then with the thirst, it can come into your life more. And then this structure of fear and safety and protection will not have as much control over the possibility of happiness and love in your life. There'll be able to be a relaxation. There'll be a greater freedom. There will be a better sense of okayness about yourself and other people. A sense of safety that comes from within, not dependent on how you are outside. A greater freedom of being. That's why you came. That's what raised its hand. It wants that. So I invite you not to worry about the part of you that doesn't know. And just hear these words. Let them in. So noticing what's happening for you right now, you notice something shifting right now. You're getting expanded. You notice that? There's kind of are there any thoughts in your head right now? No thoughts. What are you feeling in your heart? Pay attention to your heart. What's your heart feeling? Anything? Expansion? Quieting? Feeling? Okay, then look into your belly. Is there a tension? Is there a fire? Is there energy? Because your system is responding. You're drinking. You're drinking right now. And you're coming, what many people do, whose system isn't fully established, is they expand in the awareness. And you lose thought, and you become peaceful, you become more relaxed, you become more present. And so that's what's happening right now. Now, in order to make it real, you would want to feel it more in your body. But right now, you can recognize that by sitting quiet in your life, in a regular basis, regular meditation, which for me meditation is sitting silent and still and simple for 45 minutes. Be comfortable. You don't have to be in any yoga position. As a matter of fact, it's very important to have the body relaxed, but no, it's not so relaxed that it falls asleep. So that you're reclined or comfortable, and then for 45 minutes you just sit there. Be simple. Your mind might be going on, you might be feeling restless, you might be getting distracted, but you don't move. You might want to sit in a place that's attractive for you, like the backyard or a park or someplace like that. The idea of sitting for 45 minutes might be hard at first, so then sit for 20 minutes. Sit on a park bench and just be there. And you'll grow in your ability to nurture this quality in you. But in time, you want to get up to 45 minutes. If you can meditate 45 minutes twice a day, then whatever you came to when you're sitting with yourself silent and still, some of it is left over. So that when you sit the next time, it's easier. And then you accumulate a bit more. It's like money in the bank. You start storing up a capacity to be connected to yourself, silent and still. That quality of your being that isn't part of the story of you. Simple, quiet. The quiet mind's evidence that you're already awakened soul. Many awakened souls come into the life not knowing they're awakened souls. And they're very sensitive when they come into the world. And fear and repulsion is what shapes how they can be in the world. And they never can quite fit in. But when they come into spiritual energy, yeah, there you go, there's the emotion. You start connecting to that you are, that was awakened before. And that's why you're here. That's what raised its hand, that part of you. Be right there for a few minutes. Let yourself let that in. It's the dropping away of the barriers and the things about your worthiness and safety. And you just feel. Let your body be enriched by this feeling. Let it expand. It's your divinity. It's what you are in truth. It's what you've been longing for. And it's yours right in this moment. This is what it feels like. It's both a sadness and a longing. Yes, there it is. Feel that. Drink it in. This is drinking it in. It's healing. Can you feel what he's feeling? Can you sense into what he's experiencing? Yes. He's coming to something that he didn't know he had. Coming into relationship with it. His personality is meeting the soul, getting familiar with it. Yes, there's transmission, but the transmission is only helping him access his soul. And the being, that essential quality of what he is. This is the miracle of this work. Not something we have to do, something to open ourselves to spend the time in our day to let it come to us. to value it, to recognize its sacredness, its preciousness. The energy is coming into the room. That's really everybody's. I mean, you may or may not know you're feeling it. It goes to show you how developed the soul he is. He didn't know it. Now he knows. Now he's finding it. It was always there. Okay, that's good. You got it. So you should go onto my website, satri.org, and start listening to my talks on the Bhagavad Gita. Start setting up a practice in your day so you sit quiet with yourself twice a day, in the morning and night. And what it is that's there will get more and more clear and tangible. And all you'll want to do is sit and be with it and let it grow in you. And that's what you should do. What you feel right now, you just need to have more of it. Isn't this wonderful? Okay, very good. Okay, so we have to wrap up tonight. Tomorrow we're going to do this for 6 hours, so any of you who want to dive more deeply into this, you're welcome to come. Starts at 11 a.m. here, same building. Next week on Saturday we have
next Friday.
Next Friday, okay, on Friday we have another satsang like this. And then we have another intensive the Sunday afterwards. So,
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday after. Okay, so she had it wrong.
Wait, isn't it Friday satsang, Saturday intensive?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
for
it is.
next week.
Okay. Okay.
One of those.
Okay, so what we're going to do to complete for tonight is we're going to do a practice silent sitting. We're going to sit for 5 minutes. Nothing more to do, but just to be quiet with yourself, relaxed, sitting in a way that you're comfortable, feet on the floor. There is a transmission that occurs, a force that comes in. Because I've mastered meditation, the meditation space comes very easily. But I also bring in a force called the Sat force, which when it comes in, you'll know it. And if it doesn't come in, at least you get a good meditation out of the deal. So it's be aware of your breath. Be aware of yourself sitting comfortably in your chair, in your seat. Silent, still, and simple. Be aware of the energy in your body, the emotion, the sensation, the feeling, whatever that may be. The quietude, if you have the silence, the peace. Let us begin. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri. All glory to Supreme. May truth manifest. Namaste.
Namaste.
And there you have it.